Hello, welcome to Frank's School and to the Advent calendar of hymns and carols. Before I go on to this one, and you might recognize it by those words, I'm not quite done beating Silent Night up. A couple things I want to point out. First of all, a mistake I made in my diagram. I forgot the word "so." Holy Infant, so tender and mild. Tender and mild. So could go there, although it also modifies mild. And so you could bring these two together and take. There's ways to do that. I just found that quite awkward, that whole thing. And also wanted to say about for a vocabulary word, I pull out the word yawn. Round. Yawn, and I think there should have been an apostrophe before round. That is around. It's not round, but it's around. But then yawn virgin mother. Okay, yawn. I asked my wife, I said, how could you say that in modern English? Yawn mountain. How would you say that? That mountain? That there mountain? That... And she came up with, well, maybe it's related to beyond, the mountain beyond, yon mountain. You know, I think it's an example of a word that may have, its meaning has disappeared from the English language. Because if you say that there mountain, not that mountain, but that there mountain, that would be regarded as incorrect usage in modern English. So I found that interesting. I would pull that out as a vocabulary word. And then bel canto. Bel canto it means beautiful singing. It's Italian for beautiful singing. And it has quite a history. And now it's used, I think, largely just to mean good singing in an old-fashioned traditional way. And I think that's what I was talking about with the desire for bel. I think there's a name for the kind of singing I want to hear, where people don't whoop into their notes and whoop out of their notes. There's some people who simply can't do that. I had a bass one time who just couldn't just hit a note. Ba, he'd go ba, ba. He always did that. As try as I might, and I've got a cat right over there, but I used to, with my choir, try to coach them on this. I said, think of you reaching a note like a cat, jumping and landing right on the note, not quite making it and clawing your way up to the note. And yet this bel canto, it's not quite the same thing as good singing, because country western music in America, it would be wrong. You've got to like whine a little bit. I shouldn't say that. You've got to slide around a little bit for what people consider good country music, almost like a slide guitar. Well, anyway, on to this... and I did want to say that the children, as they started to sing that one, they obviously like it. And they know it. And in a way, they didn't sing as well because they started to not look at me, the conductor, but just kind of sing because they knew this. All right, now on to this one. It came upon a midnight clear. I've got the fourth verse. That's the one that I decided to deal with. The tune was called Carol. The one that's used in America is called Carol, composed by this man, lived in Massachusetts, Quincy, I think. And the poem was composed by this man, 1810 to 1876. These are Victorians. I think of them as Victorians. He was a Unitarian minister, Massachusetts. The Unitarian Church, I'm sure, developed in America. This is an American hymn. Most of these hymns and carols for Christmas that work their way into hymnals are not American. It is in 6/8. Da ba da 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 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 4 5 6 1 2 3. One of the things about 6/8 is you can count it in 3, or you can count it in 2. The 1 2 3 1 2 3 1, or the 1 the 2 da da 1 the 2 the 1. 6/8 is a charming a meter. And the words now, this poem is, I'm going to call it lyrical. It is so different from those older hymns. And there was a development, I think Isaac Watts was one of the ones who was influential here, where because of the Calvinist tradition back in Europe, for a long time, hymns to be sung in church, they needed to be based on the Psalms. You couldn't just take off and write a poem and make it into a hymn. But he broke with that, and others as well. I think it was Watts, but the others as well, with the nonconformist in England. Well, anyway, this is certainly not based on a psalm. This almost tells a story. And there was considerable editing has gone on with this. That was interesting. I looked at that. A lot of editing for gender. Peace on earth, goodwill toward men. Well, what about women? About the 1960s, people began to think about that. What about women? But see, of course, women were part of men before that. So they changed it to peace on earth, goodwill to all. In many hymnals, that was done. I find it sort of silly because people really did understand it, but that was part of the enthusiasm of the women's liberation movement of the time. And there was other editing that went on too. Now in England, the tune, the poem is sung to the tune Noel by Sir Arthur Sullivan. It's more familiar to that tune. Here in America, that tune is basically not known. Sir Arthur Sullivan, I'll certainly have more to say about him later on. He was quite a guy. All right, now, here is the fourth stanza. And as I say, it tells us a story. And ye beneath life's crushing load, whose form... well, you can read it too, but let me scan it as I go. And ye beneath life's crushing load, whose forms are bending low, who toil along the climbing way with painful steps and slow, look now for glad and golden hours. Come swiftly on the wing, go rest beside the weary road, and hear the angels sing. Common verse, iambic, tetrameter, but then with a going 4-3-4-3. This is and the rhyme scheme is simpler than some. These two rhyme: hours, wing, and sing. So the rhyme scheme continues to go like this. This would be C, D, no, D, E, F, D, I think. Now look at the poetic devices here. I love the word crushing. Life, there's so much, in a sense, personification. Life is a load. Life has a load, and it's a crushing load. And whose forms... Now, see, this is addressed. When I diagram this sentence, I'm going to diagram this much of it as a sentence. It's addressed to a person. Here's something that was edited. Ye became you. That was done. That's one of the reasons this hymnal was supplanted by another one. There was this decision made that young people couldn't understand the older language. I find that nonsense. Well, anyway, so it's addressing them whose forms are bending low, who toil along the climbing way. So this is this image of your life is hard. And now it's not a load, it's a way that climbs, that you've got to go up with painful steps and slow. The steps are painful. Look now, for glad and golden hours come swiftly on the wing. On the wing. Well, now, a time is like a bird. It's on the wing. Oh, rest beneath the weary road. Now, see, the road is weary. You're not weary on the road. This is a weary road. And hear the angels sing. I like this poetry. I peg it as Victorian. I mean, it's rich. And I think what the Victorians did in architecture, you can sort of see them doing the same thing with language. I would stand by that with verse. Alfred Lord Tennyson was the poet laureate in England at that time, and his Idylls of the King. I mean, they did such rich stuff with language. This would almost be offensive, I suppose, to a Calvinist because it's too tasty. Well, I'm going to erase the board and make a second shot because this sentence, I want to have a little bit of time to think about this before I go on. So I'll see you very soon. Well, if you paused it just before now, or pause it real quick and don't look, you can try to diagram this yourself. Or take a look at it. I've written the sentence up here, and there's the diagram. I'm fairly confident that I have it right. You pause it, and you can see if you can diagram that. All right, and I would capitalize this. It's coming from something above. I mean, I'm told in German, too, you're not supposed to start a sentence with and. You know, it's a conjunction, but I think in a way that's foolish. And ye. Now, this is direct address. This is ye, plural. You people. And which ye? You know, this sentence is being addressed to somebody. You've got to go all the way down to here to find predication. All the way down to here. Well, that's not quite right. I mean, outside of dependent clauses. And ye, beneath life's crushing load. Well, beneath is a preposition. Beneath, load, here beneath a load, and it's life's crushing goes around the corner. I'm purposely not going to write this really carefully because you probably can't read it anyway. And ye beneath life's crushing load, who toil, whose forms are bending low. All right, the forms, here we've got predication. Forms are bending. This is the progressive form, present tense of the verb to bend, are bending. And I consider this, since it's not lowly, but low, with becoming low, I consider this a predicate adjective. And whose, well, I guess I had this wrong. Let's go to sort of like this. Whose forms, this is a relative pronoun. Ye, it's your forms, but within the adjective clause, it's modifying the simple subject. And there's another one, who toil along the climbing way. Just to make sure we know who we're talking about. Well, here, who is the subject, and who toil, that's what they do. Once again, we have to happily with relative pronouns, you can make the lines go all over the place to connect them. Who toil along the climbing way. Along is a preposition, along the way, and climbing. Here we've got a participle, present participle, acting as a modifier. What kind of way? A climbing way. With steps. Preposition with steps. They're painful. These steps. They're slow. And. Now, with slow and painful steps, you would say, if it, in normal English, this is an apostrophe, of course. Now, we've identified who we're talking to, and now comes the main clause. It's a command. Look. Look. Oh, and I forgot now. Look now. For is often a preposition, but it can be a conjunction when it's serving as because, and here it is because, because. So here it's a subordinating conjunction. Why? Because. Look. Why? Because. Glad. Glad in moment. Because hours. Glad hours. And lonely. Golden. Golden hours come swiftly. They come. And how do they come? They come swiftly. On the wing. On wing. I'm pretty sure I have that all. I'm not going to. Usually I go through, and as I take care of the words as I diagram it, I go through like that. But I'm pretty sure I've got it. I hope you got it too. Well, in the video that's coming right after this, the ad hoc choir will sing the first two verses or stanzas of this poem. See you tomorrow.